The temperature is nice and warm in the Boiling Point podcast studio, so come on in, get cozy, and let's enjoy the conversation. We empower leaders through thoughtful discussions to positively impact our world. Our host, Dave Vale, founder and CEO of Vision Coaching Inc., is highlighting how we can thrive in business communities. Our conversations with leaders, entrepreneurs, and inspirational storytellers are shining a spotlight on empowerment. Joining Dave this week is our special guest host, David Savoie. Take it away, Dave and David.
Hey, well, we're back. Welcome back to the Boiling Point. If this is the first time you're listening to Boiling Point, welcome. We're excited to have you with us. We've got a topic that I find fascinating coming up. But before we go there, I want to introduce, for those who may not have caught the last two episodes, my good friend, colleague. We call him Dave One now, I think.
Pink Dave.
David Savoie.
Pink Dave and Green Dave.
David Savoie. We're wearing some swag from our last interview. Operation, or what is it? It's the war on hunger ends now, and so it's in the war on hunger. It was a great podcast. You can go back and listen to that. It was Patrick Gordon. David, you decided to guest host. How are you feeling about this? How's it going?
I'm enjoying it, and I've never met or heard of Steve and Elissa, and I'm super excited and pumped. And of course, I've never met them, so they don't know who I am. So currently, I am the CEO of a construction company, Moncton, third generation. We've been around over 60 years. I fired myself a few months ago, named a president. Marie-Lou's running it, doing a great job with the team. And I'm also on non-for-profit boards, including YPO. And I've just signed up for the Vitalité, which is our Francophone health authority. So I'm chair of the board there. So that's fun. And for our two guests, and those that haven't heard me before, my undergraduate is filmmaking. So I studied in Los Angeles, and now I run a construction company. And somebody thought it was brilliant to put me in charge of a board to take care of our healthcare in this province. So we'll see if creativity and asking questions will get us there. And the reason I'm pumped, I have a mentor coach in Toronto, Beverly Topping. She was the first president of ICD, so Institute of Corporate Directors. She's a rock star. And I talked to her yesterday, so I don't know when this is going to air, so a few weeks ago, said, David, you need to take improv classes because you're going to be front of the camera, body language, what you say, how you say it, pauses. So I'm so excited because I started asking that question and then you guys cut me off. So is that a good intro, Dave?
That's a well. And by the way, who appointed you chair of the French Health Network, Vitalité? And I'm saying it like an Italian. I meant to be more
Vitalité. No, it's government, right? The government would appoint you. It would have been our premier, yeah,
right.
And the Minister of Health, yeah.
Okay, important thing to be doing that, especially at this time when we've got all this pressure in the health system. So I'm sure we'll dig into that at some point. But let's bring in our guests who are waiting patiently. One of whom is I sent to the wrong platform. My apologies, Steve. So Steve and Elissa, over to you to introduce yourselves. And by the way, Steve looks like he's got quite the. He's got done this a few times before. He's got quite the
setup.
You got the setup. Who's first?
Well, I will go first. My name is Elissa Bernstein. It's great to be here. This is already lots of fun, and I haven't even started speaking yet. I work with Steve Lecky, and we train speakers. We train presentation skills, and that really includes a whole vast series of things. We are actors and singers. We bring a presentation performance element to it. We are writers as well. So we look at the text, how to bring the text alive, how to bring the delivery alive. And we even work on the voice as well. We're also voice specialists.
Wow. Okay. Steve, you want anything to add to that?
That's pretty good. That pretty much describes what we do. I'm Stephen Lecky. Consider myself a performance researcher. What does that mean? We look at how you're performing now and we explain to you how to get to that next level. I think the interesting thing in life for me now is getting better at things. And I think we are all interested in that now. Mm-hmm. And one of the shortcomings I think we're seeing is that the speakers are not doing as much as they could do. They're not really realizing their potential yet. And speaking of my mic, It's all very good when you got it stuck right in your face. But as soon as it gets 8-9 inches away, it's useless.
Yes.
No,
Part of the
I got this one here, the Blue Jedi or whatever, and
the blue Yeti. That's a
Yeti,
good one.
yeah, not Jedi, Yeti.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. That
It
does
seems
very
to
well on
work
the
really
radio.
well. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
told that, right? And I don't know who knows what David has.
No, I bought the same as you. You told me to get this one.
Oh,
I'm
did I?
just
Well,
a follower and admirer.
well,
I just had a different color.
Okay, Greg Hemmings.
Yours is the
Greg Hemmings is the one that told me to get this one, and just before everything shut down, and thankfully did, and we were able to do podcasts, and then we have Genevieve on with us as well, and she's our technical guru. I don't know if that's the right term for Genevieve, and she will come in later to do the hardest part of this whole podcast, which is to tell people where to find and share and all that kind of stuff. Which the co-founder of Boiling Point, Greg Hemmings, used to do famously, and I never seem to be able to do it. I have, David, I got to tell you, I have next Tuesday. I am going to go through. I'm looking at my calendar. What is an assessment of my speaking with Elissa and I believe Steve as well, and Vox Intro is the calendar invite, but you're going to tell me a little bit about what I'm going to experience. And I'm hoping that David will put up his hand to have the same experience, not knowing exactly what's going to happen, but trusting you both to point me in the right direction.
Well, I think the bottom line is we have been delivering speeches the same way probably since we've been in high school, maybe elementary. Mm-hmm. We all know how to do it. We get a topic, we can put stuff together, and as we get more experience, that happens even more easily, and even maybe with less thought to it. This is an opportunity to deconstruct what's going on here. What are you doing that is working well for you? Understand it so you can be consistent with it. And where are the opportunities, as my own executive coach says to me, the opportunities for going further? Is that really as far as you can go? We tend to emulate what we see around us. And most people are kind of doing the same kind of speaking that everybody else is doing. And how would you describe that, Steve?
Well, I think you put your finger right on it. It's the conventions. We fall into the convention, and it's sad. We're a bunch of lemmings running off the end of a wharf. And we see somebody that's running ahead of us, and we just follow them. We've got to stop doing that. You know, the nice thing about you guys, that just hearing you speak, is you haven't fallen into that trap. You know, you've kept your own personalities. Thank God for that. Our big goal, I think, Elissa, you'll back me up on this, is to tailor what we're doing to the individual. And that's really difficult, but that's the only good way. That's the only correct way to do it. You can't just have a one-size-fits-all, because we already have that. If you close your eyes and listen to any speaker, and I'm talking presentational type speaking, then you would pretty much hear the same thing over and over again. Elissa was talking about it's the academic, it's the formal style. It's like we're reading from an academic paper sometimes. It's pathetic. Nobody says anything from the heart. Nobody says anything. They don't share their opinions about anything. It's going to be an uphill climb, but we're determined. We're very determined. We're going to turn
not with you specifically,
ship
Dave.
around.
It may be.
Back to your question, Dave. What are we going to do to you?
Yeah, what's going to happen?
Well, we have this machine where we stretch you out.
That might be good. That could be helpful. It's funny, when we were talking, we met, and by the way, a shout out to Lisa Hayden for introducing us. And Lisa is a strategic partner of Vision Coaching, my company, and I believe has worked with your support, both your support, and then I think you referenced her as your executive coach, I believe, earlier. Yeah. So good. So thanks to her. What is it that, like, in your opinion, like, that has us kind of following this convention and kind of feeling like is it like just playing safe, or like what would it be?
I think it's habit. I think it's just a habit, and we have allowed ourselves to fall into it. And we are very nervous as speakers. We're nervous as speakers, and that's our go-to plan. We aren't confident. We're not confident that being ourselves as a speaker is going to get the job done. And it's the exact opposite. That's more likely to get the job done than anything, because our uniqueness is the one element that no one else has.
It's so, so true. We always notice, Steve and I, when we're doing a workshop, before the workshop starts, you have, let's say, 10 people with these wonderful personalities, and they're joking, they're laughing, but they're all different. And then they go up to speak, and everybody becomes the same. And that becomes the standard. Nobody wants to go against that. Nobody wants to stand out, but that's the whole point. But when people start realizing that they can stand out in a way that feels good, because it feels more like them, they'll actually find more comfort in presenting.
So do you get like Dave Veal to do like a test, and you know how he's built and how he's going to speak, or what's the process? Just curious why, so I can,
They're not going to tell you. It's a secret.
No.
It's a secret.
I'm in, by the way, if you want me to join. I just can't on the date you said, but I'd love to do it.
Oh, absolutely. We'll set up another time. For that. Well, a lot of what we do can feel very strange, but the fact is, it's actually closer to what we do when we are just having a real conversation, when we are spontaneous. We've taken on these habits that are so far from our nature that we don't even recognize anymore, or never ever did, how we really are in life when we're just talking and expressing and being passionately engaged in something.
So I still don't know what's going to happen on Tuesday.
we don't know yet.
They're going to make you find your inner child, Dave.
Well, that wouldn't be bad either.
We're going to teach you how to avoid answering a direct question, Dave.
You know what? Well, and we're different too. We were thinking, Dave, because we do both the content development and the text as well as the actual delivery, we thought we would split it up. We don't want to bombard you with two different coaches. Do it like this. No, try this, Dave. No, that's not good. I like this. And that's what we thought of splitting it up. Often for the delivery, what we ask people to do is do an excerpt of an actual presentation, a more formal presentation, and then just tell us a story.
Interesting.
Well,
spontaneous story.
Okay, because I'm prepared to tell a story. Well, not spontaneous story, but it's actually part of a presentation. So, but anyway, I'll let you know how it goes, David. But I would suggest you should try it because you're like you're a student of life, and you're like an avid. You like to learn. You're always sending books my way. Have you seen this? Have you listened to this? It's exhausting because I can't keep up to everything you got going on. But this is what I'm excited about is, and I was sharing with Elissa and Steve that, and Genevieve, you'll appreciate this, that I don't go back and watch these or listen to these podcasts.
Oh, interesting. Why is that?
And it's because I'm like, I just listen, and I just, the inner critic in me comes out, and I'm like, oh man, how did I ask that way? And that, and I just find it painful. And the other thing is, I was part of the conversation. It seems kind of very, I don't know, like to go back and watch yourself. It's just, but I am interested in improving. And so you'd be surprised because I don't to listen to the interviews after, but I'm excited about kind of having someone break it down and help me become me. And the one thing I've loved about this medium is, and how we set the bowling point up, is we need to show up as ourselves, because otherwise it won't be fun, first off. And the second part of it is like I have this kind of, I had this big struggle when I started vision coaching. We're just coming up, actually yesterday we turned 16. So early days, I'm an executive coach. I'm in my early 30s, and I would show up and I would do exactly what you guys are describing. I would start getting nervous in certain presentation, and I would become corporate Dave. As the persona that and corporate Dave is trying to, and it's just so boring and so like not, and so I went on this big kind of journey to become authentic Dave, to become who I am, and just be okay with it. Some people are going to like it, and some people aren't going to like it. And so if you can help me extend that journey that I'm on, or help me on the next leg of it, I'm really excited. And I think what you're describing. That's what it feels like to me. This whole idea of helping you be you in front of a crowd and not let the nerves and everything turn you, or me in my case, like corporate Dave, because corporate Dave was very.
That's who I met. That's who I met first. And you've told the story before. I met corporate Dave.
Wow. And what was that experience like compared
Dave,
to what
do you want to share the story again?
Well,
so
was it that?
To be fair, you
gotta be careful how you share the story, not because of me or you, because of other.
No. So, my transition to leadership wasn't planned, and, father passing away, starting the company and growing, and then partners retiring and me buying more shares. And then all of a sudden you're president and you're like, I don't know what to do. So I was looking for a coach. But if I rewind a few years, Dave had done a presentation for a group of leaders for under Wallace McCain. And I just remember like, I don't care. This guy's not getting me. It's not moving my give a shit meter. And then when I called Dave to see if he would coach me, I told him that I met him
after that experience. Is shocking.
And I called him anyways, and he was my coach, and now we're good friends, and he did great and help up my game in leadership. But you're right. Like we all start with corporate Dave. Yeah. Right. Like everybody does until you practice. It's like going to the gym. How are you going to practice your presentation skills?
Well, we love to hear that. It's like going to the gym. It is like learning. It's like learning anything.
Yeah.
Learning anything. And I think what you will see, Dave, is everything that we do. It will feel weird because we don't realize what we do when we're spontaneous, but it's all very down to earth, accessible. It's not an acting class. We are actors in our background, and we understand the need for it to be heightened, it to be a performance for you to engage the audience, but not because you're an actor, because you are in front of people and you have a job to do, and you have to inspire them, and you have to affect change with that. But everything we do is so meat and potatoes, nuts and bolts. And it's things that you can practice and that you want to practice so that you can become automatic. And that's where the creativity comes out. Once you're solid in the skills, then you can rise from that.
Do you, it's team, and we talked about this just in our private conversation. It seems that it's like for whatever reason, there's not as much light kind of shone on this part of developing leaders. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no.
Like,
I'd agree.
Do you want to comment on that, Steve?
Well, that's my big bugbear, as you know, because you were referring back to our initial conversation. When you think about the importance that's placed on the power suit and the hairdo and the ideas and the strategies, we forget eventually you're going to have to open your mouth and start to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the trouble hits, right? And that's the cable that connects you to the rest of the world. That's the key cable. And we need to work on that. And I'm still in the fog in terms of why we're not doing more work on this, because it's a whole discipline that is completely overlooked.
David, would you agree?
Oh, I definitely agree. Like when you're talking about corporate Dave, and I was kind of poking you a little bit there, Dave, sometimes I've been part of non-for-profits, and of course there were galas and boards like a hospital, and you have to address a crowd of 500. Well, all I do is rehearse in front of a mirror and try to do eye contact and remember the 2 or 3 keynotes, but I'm more nervous than anything. I probably sound boring as heck up there on the stage going through everything. So I'm curious on how to change that dynamic to inspire people. Mm-hmm. And Dave, we've talked about it before. There's so much a lack of leadership, inspiring, taking a gamble. And I say gamble because it's probably mostly not a gamble. It's just putting yourself out there. Who's the real you? Similar to our thought leadership podcast that we did a few shows ago, right? How can you be the authentic you and just show your stripes and colors?
Authenticity is something people talk about a lot as being essential to leadership, but they don't know how to do that. We've also worked with somebody who was very authentic leaning, wanting to be authentic, feeling authentic, but sometimes that can turn into something that's kind of overdone and what we call kind of the gush. Here I am, I care, I'm empathic. You got to be careful about that and watch and understand what makes us truly empathic and authentic and be able to bring that into those formal situations.
That is very interesting to me, because this other conversation we had around thought leadership and was this convergence of passion, credibility, and expertise, and one of the things you talk about, like leaning into your authenticity. Like I man, when I got out of this, when I got into coaching, I was, so passionate about, not so much in the presentations because I was a little nervous and that was that corporate Dave thing, but sometimes in conversations. But I was realizing that, like, I wasn't coming off as very credible because it was almost like I had to somehow rein that passion in because I think I maybe sound like a crazy person to some people but I literally felt like this could change the world, right? And then I started realizing, wait a sec, tone it down, Vale, you got to keep it, So is that what you're describing, Elissa? That kind of idea of like just understanding that maybe how these things can be a liability as well?
There are two things. I'm like you because that's my nature, that's my culture. Let me explain it to you, my passion, and it goes like this, and it takes over. And I have to rein that in. I have to contain that. People like me have to contain that great, great, great energy because it's overwhelming to people. I was talking about something a little bit different, and that is people who consider themselves really authentic and genuine, but are actually play acting at that. And they don't mean to do that, but they're playing at something instead of uncovering their own and bringing their own real genuineness to the fore. That takes skill.
Right. Well, and it actually, like, just doing the play part of it, you'd actually come across as inauthentic, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Get the exact opposite of what you're trying to accomplish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I Googled you guys, knowing that you're a guest, and what I found on YouTube where you guys were taking clips of previous prime ministers, and you were like talking about that and critiquing that. Is that where there's the biggest gap in terms of what you guys are teaching, or the people that are there in their political stratosphere and they just don't get it on inspiring and motivating the masses? Is that why you guys pick those people to pick apart?
I think we were looking for any speaker that we see on a regular basis and showing people what are the flaws here that could easily be corrected, that would change the message. I mean, when you look at, are we allowed to mention politicians here, Dave?
Of course.
When you look at someone like our current prime minister, who is rushed and gulping air, and he generally looks glib and disconnected. These things can be addressed. They can be addressed at every level, and the impact that a speaker can have then is completely changed. I mean, we're talking about buy-in. We're talking about sales. We're talking about winning clients. How do we do that? How do we do that? Well, you open your mouth, and a large part of that impression begins then, a huge part. So I'm right back to full circle, right back to, let's get this training out there and raise our levels. The problem right now is mediocrity in terms of speaking and in terms of communication. And as long as everyone stays mediocre, we're all right. But sooner or later, someone's going to improve, and then they're going to kick everyone else's ass out of the ring, okay? So who's going to be the first one to get on the bandwagon? Who's going to get in that bandwagon and raise that level?
Well, that seems like a call to action. So
damn right it is, Dave. Damn right it is.
and now you're going to create a competition between me and David Savoie.
Yeah, I think so.
Carry that torch. Go
Good
for it.
idea. Hey, how about we work on the exact same text? We'll do a before and after, and we'll see who wins.
Oh, geez. Now the pressure.
Isn't that awful?
I immediately started sweating when you said that, because
I know. And David, you brought that up as well. The kind of stress that we experience in facing these presentations, that is so common. And a lot of people won't even do any training because they're too stressed.
Wow.
And I've heard stories. I've had a client who told me she fainted,
Oh my God.
just keeled over and fainted. And I had another client who just doing a few vocal exercises started crying.
Oh, wow.
This is personal.
Stressful.
This is
Yeah.
personal, but why not address it in the comfort of a session with a loving, supportive, experienced coach, and address it? Don't go through life like this, because you do have to present a lot.
The challenges a lot of us are hiding, and we, and I personally know this from experience. I hid from public speaking till I was forced into it at like 30 years old, because I recognized, like, I got to get over this, because I'm missing opportunities. And I started going to Toastmasters, and but I was literally, I'm laughing hard with the fainting, because in my head, I was worried that I had all these crazy thoughts about what would happen, right? Trip going up the stairs, or it was all negative. It was really weird experience. And then when I got through it, and I still feel nervous every time I speak. It was actually, it was kind of fun, So I had to focus on, okay, we're going to get to that part. And the first part is just, it's the way it is. I just got to deal, at least for me, the way I'm always going to be nervous. That's just, how I am. And then when I kind of get into it, but I know now, I'm aware I'm not going to faint, and I'm probably not going to completely forget all the word, like my language, whatever. So, but it's just, I have to laugh, because, and I feel for people that don't want to face it, because that was me. It was me. It was really tough. And then as that process, then I would hide behind this persona, and then that didn't work so well. I mean, David Savla wouldn't even look at me in that presentation.
I love you, brother.
Oh, but it's really a phobia. Yeah. It's a phobia, and a lot of people have it. They assume it's just a normal fear and it's inevitable, and it is not. Like, with any phobia, you can address it.
I heard it made me laugh, is that people fear speaking above dying, but what supersedes that is dying while speaking.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one. But I always like to think that if somebody said, okay, either I shoot you or you have to give a talk about what project you're working, I like to think that people will choose the person.
Well, people will probably ask, well, where are you going to shoot me? Like in the foot? I'm probably okay with that. I have a friend that I invited. My father has a retirement coming up, and he's coming to it. And I said, I'm so excited, because I knew what it would cause in him. I said, there's only a limited amount of tickets, and he said, oh no, I want to be there, and this and that. So I said, okay, we're looking forward to, we want you to speak. And then he said, yeah, I feel sick, I can't make it. Like he will not speak no matter what. And so it is a real thing for some people. I recognize that.
It's a real thing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But as Steve always says, first of all, prepare. Mm-hmm. Second of all, get some skill. Know your audience, we always suggest get on that stage, even for 5 minutes, just test out the stage. It is a performance. And there are also some amazing techniques, especially now, that repattern the brain to take away that fear, to make you realize that you're not going to die. It's not a saber-toothed tiger.
Give us an example of one technique.
Well, the ones I like to use are EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. That's a great technique for reprogramming. I don't know if you've heard of that, but if your listeners want to look it up, on YouTube, there are videos that talk you through a series of tapping. You tap on points. It uses acupressure techniques, and it literally reprograms you to stop the amygdala, the fight or flight response, from being activated when you think about that presentation.
Wow.
That's awesome.
There's breathing that you can do. Everybody knows a little bit about breathing at this point, has done yoga or has done a little breathing. The simple one of doing some breath exercises right before. The best thing, though, is to do it early on, a few weeks before your presentation. Spend a few minutes, because when people say to me, oh, I was fine until I walked up to the podium, I say to them, those feelings were there, but they were repressed. You must bring them out, deal with it, kind of like life, so that they don't take you by surprise. And another technique I'll mention that I've had a great success with myself and with all kinds of speakers and actors and people we train is called The Work. The Work, Byron Katie. Has anybody heard of that?
No.
That's incredible. And it's really just, and there's a helpline. You can call somebody up and get some help. And when I had an unmentionable, oh my God, I do it a lot on myself, but when I had, there was a vermin, a rodent in my living room, and oh my God, a rat. Okay, I'll admit it. It was a small one, but I started screaming. I was on the phone with my mother. I just started screaming, and she says, "What's wrong?" In a surprisingly calm voice. And that's pure fight or flight. When you start screaming before you even realize. Has anybody had that experience where you just you're in fight or flight? And that's how you are when you walk up to the podium. Most of us get a little bit nervous and we get a little clammy and we get a little shorter breath. But when you are panicking, you're in pure fight or flight. Some people even describe it as, I got there and I just had this urge to run. And I think, fight or flight.
Right.
And these techniques can really change that. There's also CBT, of course, cognitive behavioral therapy, but I kind of like the other versions. It's faster. You can do it on your own, and the results are great.
So let's say we have people that are listening, and maybe they're not at the fight or flight, but maybe they're getting a 50% mark and they just want to up their game. Does your process help them improve and get to a 60 and a 70 to inspire, even though that they may do some of your techniques, or you're really going to start with the people that are frightened of public speaking?
No, that's just one aspect of it that we address, because that could really interfere with the presentation performance as well as the learning.
So, and you would work with probably everyone along the continuum, right? People that are probably at the, doing quite well, and you help them elevate their speaking to the people that are maybe reluctant speakers. Would that be fair? I'm guessing. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, it's literally like training an athlete. Basically, we all have this level of mastery and we can move on. Basically, that's what's fun about it. We have people at all different levels. And the nice thing about the Vox method, the techniques, is you introduce the technique and basically the speakers begin to use the techniques and become better, and they become autonomous. I think the key is to make the speakers autonomous, make them able to go away with something in their head that they're going to work on. You know how we feel when we go to the gym as well. We feel that we're doing something for ourselves. We feel good. And this is something that can happen to people that are training their speaking as well. They can feel good about the changes they're making, and then they can begin to look at presentations not as something to be afraid of, but something to try their new skills on, something to work through to the next level and the level after that. So every engagement then, instead of being a nightmare, becomes something they eventually look forward to. I'm nervous. We're all nervous. But you never get rid of the nerves. In fact, you don't want to get rid of the nerves. The nerves are what keep us sharp.
Yeah.
But when they get out of control, that's the problem. And when they get out of control in an unrealistic and unhealthy way, that has to be addressed. So get some training and do something about it.
How do people so someone's listening, they say, okay, I want to learn more. I want to read up on Steve and Elissa. Where do they go, and how do they reach you guys?
They can go to our website, Vox Method, voxmethod.com, and contact us. Be happy to. We do an assessment training. That's what we're doing with Dave next week.
Yay.
Or whenever.
Yeah, Tuesday.
On Tuesday.
I'm thinking about already.
Yeah, and it's
nervous.
And it's
Are you nervous? Should be. You should be.
Now I am. Steve.
Really scary. People, they leave that assessment training. We assess the skills. We talk about your goals. We give you an idea of where the opportunities are, and also just show you a few things. Most people, they respond with a big smile and they think, oh, that is so much better. We should so much better.
We should consider doing. I don't know if it would be an interesting podcast or not, but it would be interesting to just have you feedback the results to me, and record it and see if it would make sense to go, unless that gives away trade secrets or something. But
that's a great idea. Why don't we do it live? Why don't we take part of the this session and make it turn into a podcast? What do you think?
What do you think, Genevieve? She's shaking her head.
Well, how easily do you cry, Dave?
Very easily. Actually, my last.
Then yes, definitely.
In the last interview, I was close. I got to tell you, it's a pretty powerful interview. I was right there. So this would be tears of joy, I think. But that'll be fun. We should do that. And depending on how tough the feedback is, we can use it as a podcast or not.
No, for sure. Well, you have control over that, or at least should if you have this.
Yeah. And then we'll do David later. And then
I love it. I'm in.
And then Genevieve and I work close together, so I can work on the editing on that.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, so that people know where to meet you, find you, and meet you. Hopefully, any we're just coming towards the end here, but any final thoughts from you in terms of what else we should know about speaking? I mean, we've covered a lot, and there's so much more.
I would just say that every presentation is an opportunity. Take advantage of that opportunity by presenting yourself, who you are, and your message in a way that is memorable, in a way that is memorable, and that the audience will remember you as well.
And also keep in mind that we're talking about those presentations that are more awkward. Obviously, we're having a casual conversation here. No one's going to criticize the way we're speaking today on this podcast. It's when you have this more formal situation where you have to present statistics, you have to present facts, you have to present the state of the world. This is an opportunity to allow yourself to become more involved in your speaking and to allow more of your personality to come through and to enjoy it more and to make it better and to make it, dare I say, even entertaining.
I like, that's a very good point that about making it enjoyable, like, because that's the whole, it doesn't have to be this horrible experience is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
David, final thoughts from you.
Oh, look, I've just been exposed. I've been exposed to something that I hadn't wrapped my head around that my coach told me I should do yesterday. So I'm definitely going to follow up and try to make, I don't know, if I can, any presentation in the future that much better, incremental steps towards engaging whoever my audience is. So
awesome.
Thank you.
Right on.
We look forward to working with both of you.
Yes. Well, and I guess my takeaway, there's a whole bunch, but one that's kind of rising to the top is I spent so much of, like this early part of my life avoiding every speaking opportunity. And what a waste, if I look back at it now. And it's almost like I'm making up for it in some ways but if someone's listening to this and has really resisting and not doing it, I mean, I think everyone has great stories. Each one of us has, and it's unfortunate that sometimes fear can bring that away, or help make you a shadow of yourself and who you could be.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's just something's coming up for me. So I can be a testimonial to, what, you don't actually faint. You actually can get through it. Huh. And I have forgotten words sometimes, but I've learned, and I'm going to learn more, but I've learned my little techniques that work for me that wouldn't work for the other. Greg and I did, he's usually the host. He's on a hiatus now. We were the chairs of the United Way, co-chairs of the United Way campaign. And they gave us all this script for their big kickoff, the big dinner and all that kind of stuff, or I guess it was a lunch. And, there's, I don't know, 600-700 people or whatever crammed into a room. And that's what I learned is I'm not a very good scripted person. Like, I was trying to read these notes as hard as I can. I felt so bad, but we just had to go off script every time because it was just wasn't my voice. Like, I was, and it was, someone had done it for us. It was kind, but it was really, really tricky. So So that's not necessarily helpful, but I am taking, this is a long takeaway. So you can edit it down, Genevieve. And David's like, yeah, that's enough. Thank you so much for joining us. David, what a pleasure it's been having you as a guest host. You want to chime in here?
No, well, I just, you almost forgot Genevieve. She has to wrap.
Oh yeah, well, we're going to go. No, I didn't forget. Man.
Okay, I didn't know.
Well, I did, but I'm going to pretend I didn't.
Okay.
Genevieve, which I had written down right here, is going to lead us out. Thanks for listening, and you can find us.
Yeah, as a lifelong theater kid and with a degree in it, I highly recommend this particular podcast episode. And you can find it and everything else at theboilingpointpodcast.com. We also are on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And you can find our episodes on any of your favorite podcast platforms. And if you want to check out the video, which is highly amusing most times, it is on Facebook and YouTube.
Bam. Thank you, everyone.
Merci tout le monde.
Thanks so much, everyone. Lots of fun.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Boiling Point Podcast. Remember to subscribe and rate our podcast on your favorite listening platform. To find out more, head to our website at boilingpointpodcast.com. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. To find out more about Dave Vale's work, head over to visioncoachinginc.com. Thanks for listening, and make sure to check out our next conversation.